right now we have 7 participants, and I'm so happy to have everybody in here. And I'm still waiting for time so other students get connected. All right, before I introduce our special guest today. So what if you talk to me a little bit about you, please? Just tell me your name and why you are here today and what are you expecting from this meeting. Okay, so Mario.
Well, hi, everybody. Who else is watching me now besides you? You, Antonio, you, Tanya, you, Maria Carmen, and nobody else there. Okay. Well, my name is Mario, and I really love to keep chatting a lot bit and the conversation club and growing up. And I'm a little excited because this is going to be the first time to practice my language through this app and through this way. It's more or less like a language exchanges because I have been practicing through the language exchanges. So this is different because this is another kind of technology, something like Skype or some stuff like that. But I think the important thing with this is that we have at least a golden opportunity to chat a different subject in a little advanced level, of course. And what do I expect from all this? First, to get a little feedback about my awful or my good speaking. The last word will be yours. And I really hope to get this experience several times again with several subjects, with more people, and why not from another places around the world who nobody knows.
All right.
This is what I want.
Great. Okay. Next person, please. Maria Carmen.
Hi, my name is Maria Carmen, and I agree with my English is not. Sorry.
Don't worry, you're just nervous. That's it. You're just nervous, but don't worry. Come on.
Okay, and I expect to speak more English or to learn to speak English.
Great. So that's what you're gonna do. So we have another person right now. Diana.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Well, my name is Diana Mendez, and I am an engineer, electronics and communications engineer, and I want to learn more about heart diseases, and I like to know about health issues, and I want to practice my listening.
Oh, great. That's what you're gonna do here. So right now, I'm gonna introduce you Veronica Sanchez, who is our special guest today. She's gonna introduce herself. I just wanted to introduce you her name. And I'm gonna ask her to, I'm gonna restart the audio and the video so you can meet her. And she has a very interesting presentation for us. Hello, Veronica.
Hello.
Can you see her?
Can they see me?
I can.
Can you hear me?
I think they can't hear you. Something's wrong.
Can you hear me, Veronica?
Yes, I can hear you, Mario.
All right.
Mari Carmen, can you listen?
Yes.
Great. Diana? Well, Antonio? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So Tanya, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right.
So you can start.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm gonna go over a few things with you so you can learn a little bit about heart disease, but I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Veronica Sanchez. I'm with the American Heart Association. I'm a national spokeswoman for the American Heart, as well as being the Director of Community Impact for Houston and the Gulf Coast region. And more importantly, I am Tanya's cousin. So what we're gonna learn about is learn a little bit about heart disease. As I go through, feel free to ask questions and try to ask the questions in English, pero si no pueden, me lo pueden decir en español porque al final lo que yo quiero es que entiendan la tema.
Okay.
Great.
So we're going to learn a little bit about heart disease and how to embrace health through Life Simple 7. So our goal is to improve the cardiovascular health of all Americans by the year 2020 by 20% while reducing deaths from cardiovascular disease and stroke by 20%. Now, that's in the United States. I know that most of you are from Mexico. And so in Mexico, in 2017, 54% of the deaths were caused by cardiovascular disease, which means that 1 in 2. In other words, for every 2 people, 50% of the population is dying from heart disease. So what is that? That's of epidemic proportion. So there's things that we need to learn so that we can have quality of life. So what is the first thing that you can do to help manage and prevent heart disease? The first thing you can do is to manage your blood pressure. Why? Blood pressure is the single most significant risk factor for heart disease. Of all of you on the phone, how many of you check your blood pressure on a regular basis? Anybody?
I haven't.
Nobody checks it? You should be checking it at a minimum, at least once a month, if not more.
Once a month.
If you only wait to do it once a year when you go to the doctor, that only gives you an indication of your blood pressure in that one point in time. It's not a clear indication of what your blood pressure is. Your blood pressure can change in the morning when you wake up because you've been resting all night, and it's going to be a different number when you've been very active and running and doing different things. So it's very important to know what your numbers are. So what is blood pressure? What is normal blood pressure? The American Heart Association recently changed our guidelines. And so normal blood pressure, or to have a healthy lifestyle, is anything over 120 over 80 or less. So what does that mean? The top number is the systolic number and the bottom number is systolic. So I want you to think of your heart beating. So I hear a lot of background noise. I want you to think about your heart. So you hear the pump, boom, 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 boom. So systolic, diastolic, systolic, diastolic, systolic, diastolic. So what does that mean? That when your heart is active, that's systolic. When your heart is resting, diastolic. So think of your heartbeat, boom, 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 boom. So that's the easiest way for me to explain it. When you have elevated blood pressure, that's when your numbers are between 120 and 129 on the top and over 80 on the bottom. Once you go into stage 1, you're between 130 and 139 on the systolic and 80 to 89 on the diastolic, and you're at stage 2, anything over 140 over 90. The reason that we want you to stay below 80 on the diastolic is that if your heart has to work very hard when your heart is at rest, that means that there is an issue. It could be a circulation issue, it could be high cholesterol, it could be a blood clot, it could be a number of things. So it's very important that you know what your numbers are so that if you ever go over 80 on the bottom number, it's definitely time to get checked and go to the doctor and see what's going on and have some other tests done. So here it gives you a little bit different, it gives you a better indication of what blood pressure categories are. So normal is less than 120 over 80, elevated between 120 and 129 and less than 80. Stage 1 is between 130 and 139 on your systolic, which is the top number, and the diastolic of anything over between 80 and 89. Once you're in stage 2, you're above 140 over 90, and if you're in crisis mode, anything 180 over 120. And it's very important that you go to the doctor, or if you're somewhere and you're able to check your blood pressure on a regular basis, if you ever see high numbers, that you get that checked right away, because there are some consequences that can happen. So what are those consequences? Very important to know your numbers. If you don't check your blood pressure on a regular basis, you could have a stroke. A large percentage of individuals that have high blood pressure over time can have, their blood vessels can clot or burst in their brain, and they can have a stroke. They can have heart failure, congestive heart failure. They can have a heart attack. It can cause kidney disease, because what happens is that the arteries around the kidneys will tighten and get hard and will not allow the blood to filter itself. And then for the men, which is the one thing that probably gets all their attention, is it causes sexual dysfunction. So it's very important to understand and know what your numbers are. So what can you do to improve your blood pressure? There's some simple things that you can do. You can reduce some weight if you're a little bit overweight. You want to make sure that even just losing you know, a little bit of weight can improve your blood pressure by 5 millimeters on the scale. Eating a DASH diet, so making sure that we're eating the rainbow, making sure that we're eating fruits rich in fruits and vegetables, low in dairy and fat dairy, and reduced in fat. We want to reduce our sodium, because a lot of times it's not so much the salt that we add, but it's all the hidden salt. There are some things that are already pre-made that are high in salt, so you wouldn't think bread, but bread has a lot of salt in it. So does pizza. The cheese has a lot of salt. Any cured meats, if you're putting pepperoni on your pizza, that's a lot of salt that's being put on there. Anything in a can that has to be maintained fresh is going to have a lot of salt. And anything that has a long shelf life is going to have a high amount of salt. So you want to try to stay below 1,500 milligrams per day, which is very difficult to do. But it can be done. You just have to be very cognizant and read your food labels. Make sure that you're physically active. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. And moderate consumption of alcohol. So the next thing you can do to also help you from suffering heart disease is to control your cholesterol. When there's too much cholesterol in your blood, you are at a major risk for heart disease and stroke. So what is that? So here we have some information regarding your cholesterol. You want to make sure that you know that not only do you know your total number, but you know the ratio between your good cholesterol and your bad. And in a little bit, I'll share with you why that's very important. But what you want to make sure is that you have a 50-50 ratio. So an example, if your total cholesterol is 200, you want at a minimum that the good cholesterol, the HDL, is at least 75. And then the rest can be the bad one, because you're going to have a mix of both. There's no way you're going to have one more than the other in terms of the good. We always tend to have more bad than good. But you want to at least try to aim for a 50-50 ratio, because if you don't, that could be a deadly cocktail. If you have too much bad to too little good. And that's a test that you can run when you go to your doctor for your annual physical, and they can run that test, and you can ask them, you know, what was my total cholesterol? What was my HDL, my good one? And what was my bad one, my LDL? We talked a little bit earlier about getting active and staying active. People who exercise have a better health than those who do not. But you know, we just want to make sure that you're active. So a lot of people say, well, I don't have money to go to the gym. I'm not asking you to go to the gym. There's simple little things that you can do. So if you're driving and you're going somewhere, park a little farther so that you can walk a little, you know, you can walk a little more. Take the stairs as opposed to taking the elevator or the escalator. And some simple things that you can do even at home. You know, even in the kitchen, you can get 2 cans of something and exercise with your arms and walk around the block, you know, go to the park. Not only will it help you reduce your stress, but it's also helping with your circulation, which will also help you ultimately with your blood pressure. So here it talks about how much exercise should I need. So adults should get about 150 minutes of moderate to aerobic activity, or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity. So it's one or the other. And you want to try to do that every week. And I know sometimes it's hard, but like I said, maybe just taking the stairs as opposed to the elevator, or perhaps walking a little more by parking a little farther, that'll help. And you want to do muscle strengthening activity at least 2 days per week for additional health benefits. If you're a child or a teenager, you want to do at least 60 minutes of physical activity every day.
Okay. So is that 75 minutes a week or
a week? A week.
Okay, that's great. You got it, guys?
It's not too bad.
In a week, in 7 days, like 10 minutes a day?
Yeah, it's really about 15 minutes a day, so it's not too bad. And then when you're losing weight, you want to make sure that your BMI, your body mass index, is less than 25% is optimal for cardiovascular health. But that is very hard to do, especially if you have, like me, very heavy bones. It's very hard to, that's what I say, I have heavy bones, to keep that BMI. But again, it's just making sure that you're exercising, you're eating right, and making sure that if you're taking on extra calories, that you're gonna be able to exercise them off. Let's see here. Want to make sure that you're eating a heart-healthy and nutritious diet. Again, trying to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, making sure you're getting whole grains, fat-free and low-fat dairy products, and fish with omega-3 fatty acids. So no foods and beverages with added sugar. So no more Coca-Cola, sorry. And no more products high in sodium.
May I make a question?
Sure, you may.
Well, what about the milk? Which kind of milk should I drink?
It depends. It depends. I recommend 2%. If you want to take whole milk, you can do 2% because you have less fat, but you still have the protein. When you're drinking soy, almond, and coconut milk, there's no protein in it, none whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And some people, if you're a woman, you want to try to stay away from too much soy because for some women, it will also cause, has the potential to cause breast cancer. So you need to be very careful. A lot of people will say, well, I'm going to drink almond milk all the time. Well, that's fine every once in a while, but just realize that you're not getting any protein whatsoever. And protein is what keeps you full. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to smoking, smoking is the #1 modifiable cause of death. So that's something that we can modify in the sense that there's no reason for us to die if we don't smoke. And secondhand smoke is almost as bad as the actual smoking. So try to stay away from areas where people are smoking. So you don't want the secondhand smoke. And if you do smoke, you want to try to slowly wean away from smoking. We need to reduce our blood sugar because we don't want diabetes. High blood sugar encourages the growth of plaque in your arteries and increases your risk for diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. And just very quickly, I know I've talked more about heart disease, but for every minute that someone is suffering from a stroke and they're not receiving care, they are killing 2 million brain cells every minute. That's why it's a very debilitating disease. And that's why you see a lot of people that have strokes that lose either parts of their memory, their ability to speak, or the use of a leg or an arm, because that part of the brain, those brain cells are dead and that part will no longer function. So that's why we hear about the golden hour when people are having either a heart attack or having a stroke. And the reason being is that the longer that it takes them to receive care, they could have potentially long-term deficits, whether it's speaking or mobility. So that's why it's very important to know what your blood sugar is. It's very important to know what your cholesterol is and what your blood pressure is. So when you're looking at blood sugar levels, you're looking at the glucose and the insulin, and yes, your body does produce insulin. That's the purpose of your liver. The purpose of the liver is to go ahead and filter all your blood and to produce cholesterol, but you don't want too much either. So you want to make sure that your blood sugar levels, to have it be in the normal range, you want to be less than 100 milligrams. In the healthy range, if you're between 100 and 125, you're pre-diabetic. And over 125, you are diabetes, have diabetes, and you'll probably have medication. Late last year, I actually attended a conference where we're focusing, it's a world conference that we are focusing on diabetes. Only 11 countries in the entire world are participating in this particular program. The United States is one and Mexico City is the other. Diabetes has reached a pandemic proportion that if we don't control diabetes, which is a risk factor for having heart disease and stroke, by the year 2025, we will have over 275 million people with diabetes. What does that mean? That means that 1 in 10 people will have diabetes. It is a very expensive disease to manage. And unfortunately, if we don't take advantage and get our numbers in check, we're going to lose a lot of people to this disease because they won't be able to afford the medications or the upkeep, or more potentially they could have a heart attack or a stroke. So it's very important, to maintain all your numbers and know what they are. So why is this important to me? Because I'm a survivor. It happened to me. This is me in August 27th of 2011, 2 days after I had 2 heart attacks. I also underwent open heart surgery to save my life. Why? Because I didn't pay attention to my numbers. I didn't know what my blood pressure was. I would only go to the doctor once a year. I didn't know what my cholesterol was. And here I was in 2011, suffered 2 heart attacks within 12-hour period, and I lost 25% of the use of my heart muscle. What does that mean? That means I have limitations that I will have for the rest of my life. So this is why I do the work that I do. This isn't the job that I had when I got sick. I was doing a totally different job. And to me, this is more important, to be able to educate people of different communities to understand the risk factors, to understand that this can happen to you. And if you go back and you look and you think about your family history, medical history, you probably know somebody in your family that either had a heart attack or a stroke, had high blood pressure, had diabetes, and who has had major health issues as a result of not taking care of themselves. And so we want to stop that trend. We want to have quality of life, and we want to make sure that people understand that there's questions that they can ask when they go to the doctor, that they need to be checking their numbers. Like I said, the blood pressure, the cholesterol, and the diabetes more than once a year, because it's only an indication of health for that one point in time. So you want to make sure that you're getting you're checking yourself on a regular basis, because at the end of the day, what you want is quality of life. So before I go on, does anybody have any questions?
No.
Yeah, of course there is a question.
Okay.
Well, when you about the sugar, I think this is a cultural problem, because in my own experience, right now in our city, in our country, most of the people, not almost, most of the people defends drinking of Coke and soft drinks with sugar. It's easier to anybody right here in our city. It's easier to drink a Coke than drinking some water. I think there should be a special and educational program, not just right here, but around, in order to get people the awareness of this problem.
Well, we can educate, and let me tell you, when I talked earlier about our goals, that we were either to improve the health by 20% or reduce death. I can save your life better than I can, let me put it like this, okay. It's easier for me to save your life, and the reason is this. The American Heart Association, a lot of the hospitals in the United States use our standards, use our guidelines. So what does that mean? That means that when you have a heart or stroke event, and you go to any of the hospitals that have our designation, that have our training and certification, that means all their doctors are trained by us. They have all the latest guidelines, they have all the protocols, they have the medicines, they have the equipment, the technology, the doctors have been trained. Everybody is prepared to save your life. However, the other 20% to improve cardiovascular health, that's exactly what you're talking about, Mario. It takes people to make the decision that they are going to take ownership of their own health.
Yeah.
And they are going to make a change. And that is the hardest thing to do, is to get somebody to change. I talk to people in different communities all the time. And I hear people telling me all the time, you know what? I'm going to eat what I'm going to eat. I'm going to drink what I'm going to drink. I'm going to smoke what I want. And if it happens, it happens. Not realizing that it might take your life, or worse, it doesn't take your life and it leaves you paralyzed with the unable to talk. But even more importantly, and even worse, is the people that it affects around you, your family, your children, your wife. They're the ones that suffer the most because they see you in that condition. And so it's very hard to make change without the individual accepting responsibility and saying, I'm going to make change. Whether it's, and you don't have to make all changes, just pick one. And just that one, master that one, and then move on to the next one. Yeah,
the first step should be given by oneself.
Exactly, but that's the hardest one to make, because we live in a society that we want everything now, and we want everything fast, and we want to just take a pill and say, okay, that's it, I'm done, I don't have to worry about it anymore. But that pill is getting to be medications are becoming very expensive. I personally take 11 medicines a day to keep me alive. 11. It's very expensive. So if people think it's easier just to get sick and then take medicine, it's not, because it's expensive. Because every time I go to the doctor, it's $3,000 to $4,000 for tests, and every time I go to the pharmacy, it's anywhere between $500 and $600 a month in medicines.
I imagine that around the country, around the United States, the health insurance should be so cheap, and that's why most of the people prefer to drink and quit and smoke. And prefer to be sick because, okay, I got my all health insurance.
But life insurance is changing. If you notice, there's been a shift where they're doing cost sharing. So what a lot of insurance companies are doing is they're making people do assessments so they know what your health is. And if you're a smoker, you're going to pay more. If your numbers are not good, you're going to pay more for your life insurance, and your deductibles are going to be higher. And a lot of insurance companies are moving towards that shift because the cost of medications and the cost of care is just growing exponentially. And so the only way they can maintain that is to keep the cost down for those that are taking care of themselves. And if you don't want to take care of yourself and you have pre-existing conditions, your insurance is going to be more expensive.
Okay, let me see if I understood this. The healthier I am, the cheaper is the insurance, or the same with other words. The more sicker I am, the more expensive is these insurances.
It is, but a lot of companies, what they're doing is, so let's say, like, for example, for me, I have heart disease. Even though I have it under control, because I take my medicines and I do what I'm supposed to do, the only way that my insurance can come down is if I agree to do certain things. So I agree to go to the doctor all the time. I agree to take my medicines the way that they're prescribed. And so that will help me reduce some of the costs, but that depends on your insurance provider, if they're willing to work with you. Some don't. So it really depends on how you receive your insurance. Some employers are willing to reward you if you're doing certain things to help improve your health. And others will say, you know what? If you're not going to take care of yourself, then your insurance is going to be higher. So that's the trend that we're seeing with companies. And I don't know about your specific insurance companies, how it works, but when you look at employers, one of the biggest things that they have, one of their largest expense items is not only the salary of the employee, but it's the healthcare benefits that they provide to that employee.
Okay. I have another little question, Vera, about the sugar again.
Okay.
I used to use, I have been using Splenda, little sticks with Splenda in my coffee. Using Splenda instead of sugar is the same stuff. I mean, is it bad to use the Splenda instead of the sugar in my coffee or my chocolates? I'm not sure.
So this is what I would tell you, and this is me talking as a survivor. If you're going to want something sweet, use the real thing. Use sugar. Why? Your body knows how to process and break down the molecules of the sugar. When you have Splenda, when you have Equal, when you have anything else that's not natural sugar, your body doesn't know what to do with it because it's not a natural, it's a synthetic. It was synthetically made. It's not a natural product. So your body can process honey, your body can process natural sugar, but it cannot process Splenda. It cannot process Equal or the pink one. I don't even know what it's called. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we have an influx or an increase in other problems because your body does not know how to process that. So I would say if you want something sweet, use your sugar and use your honey, but try to use less and less every time you try to use it. And what I use in my coffee is put a little bit of cinnamon, stir it. It teases the brain and it makes you think, because when you think of cinnamon, you think of sweet. So when you're drinking it, you're able to drink it without adding the sugar, and it tells the brain that it's sweet. So just try it next time you have your coffee.
Thanks a lot. I'll try it. No?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Maybe Mario, you can use it stevia because it's natural and it's recommended by nutritionists. Stevia instead of Splenda. It's better.
Let me write the name, Sandra.
Stevia. Stevia. Stevia.
And what's the difference between that, stevia, and Splenda?
Stevia, actually, it's natural. It's not chemical. It's kind of leaves, actually, and it's natural. You can buy it on HEB, or if you are in Mexico, you can buy it in Pacali. Pacali, that's the name of the store, Pacali.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Sandra.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for your participation, everyone. So, Veronica, can you please continue with your presentation?
We're almost through. So basically what you need is a plan. You need a plan to be able to have good cardiac health, because without a plan, you'll probably have an increased risk for heart disease and stroke, an increased likelihood of illness and disability, increased need for surgeries, medications, and treatments, and reduced quality of life. And that's what we're trying to prevent. When you take care of your own self, you'll have better quality of life. You'll be able to live a longer life, because sugars, fats, all those things, not only can they cause heart disease and they cause a stroke, but guess what? They also can cause dementia, Alzheimer's, and cancer. So by knowing your numbers and taking care of your blood pressure, you can alleviate not just having the risk of having heart disease and stroke, but you're also preventing having the ability of having a cancer or Alzheimer's or dementia later in life. So with the success plan, every step counts towards your goal, but like Simple 7, you can know you're taking care of yourself to reach your best potential for yourself and those that you love. Together, you can build a healthier future, one heart at a time. So there's some resources that we have available through the American Heart Association that you can check. One is called mylifecheck.org, and the other one is heart360.org. Those are two resources that you can go to. There's another one that says startwalkingnow.org and how to spot a stroke. So we talked about stroke, but I didn't even go over what are the signs and symptoms of a stroke. So I want to make sure that before we leave today that you know what they are, so that if you see somebody suffering from a stroke, you'll be able to call for help. So the first one, we call it FAST. And you see on the screen, it says F-A-S-T. So the F is for face. If you see somebody that their face is drooping, or that they're trying to talk and they, and they're having a hard time because their face is crooked, that's the first sign. And that's the F. The A stands for arm. If they lose their ability or their strength in an arm, then they're potentially going to be having a stroke. S is for speech. That means that they're trying to speak and they're either speaking incoherently or they're not making any sense, or they're talking about something else totally different than what you're talking about. So potentially that they're having a stroke. And T, time to call 911. Why? Because again, as I mentioned earlier, for every minute that someone is suffering a stroke, they're losing 2 million brain cells every minute. For every 15 minutes that someone is delayed in receiving care when they're having a stroke, that adds an additional 3 months of cardiac rehab just to try to get better. So it's a very expensive disease to have or event to have. And so we want to make sure that we recognize the signs. FAST, F, face, A is arm, S is speech, and T, it's time to call 911 to get help. And why do we do all this? Because life is why. Es por la vida. Por eso hacemos esto. Muchas gracias. Okay, so I'm here to answer any other questions that you might have. The only one that really talked was Mario and Sandra. I haven't heard Maria Carmen say anything in English yet.
Go ahead.
Right, write down some questions, 1 or 2 questions that you can ask Veronica, please. I'll give you 30 seconds to think of your questions, and if you have a paper over there, just write them down.
Two questions?
Yes, 1 or 2. I mean, it depends on you. You can ask 1 or 2 questions. It depends on the time. So write down 2 questions. And if we have time, we can ask both of them. We have like 5 minutes. All right. So at least each person is going to ask 1 question. Right. Diana, are you there? You can ask questions if you want to.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, don't worry. If you have any question for Veronica, please write it down. And
No, thank you so much.
all right. Okay, that's okay.
I have a question. I sorry.
Yes.
I didn't heard how often do we have to check up our blood pressure?
Okay, so the question is, how often should we be checking our blood pressure? So I mentioned earlier that you want to check it at a minimum at least once a month, but I check mine every day.
Okay.
You know, if you have a blood pressure monitor at home, you want to be checking it as much as at least once a day. If not, if you don't have access, when you go to the pharmacy, Walgreens, CVS, sometimes the HEBs, if you're in Texas, that the stores that have pharmacies or the Kroger or Randall's, or I'm trying to think of other stores that have pharmacies, they will have a little machine called a Higgy where you sit down and you can put your arm through it and it'll check your blood pressure. If nothing else, at least that'll give you more of an indication outside of waiting once a year when you go to your doctor.
Is there something like this in Mexico? Do you know, guys? Mari Carmen or Mario, do you know from a place that we can go?
¿Hay
Well,
alguna farmacia en México que utilizan la maquinita para revisar la presión?
I don't know.
well, in my own experience, in my own experience, I have two kind of medical services now: Social Security, Seguro Social, and the other one is EMME, Emergencias Médicas. In both places, you can check your blood pressure. And in the case of the Social Security, everything you should do when you want to do this is to just dropping by the clinic on the Social Security. In my case, the sixth hospital is near home, and I can do that every time I want. And the case of the M, Emergencias Médicas, you can do it just for free, but just in case you have bought the complete package of the insurance, I mean the health insurance services. I'm not sure in the case of the Americans, maybe they can do the same if they go to the hospital or if they need to buy a complete product of health services.
Like insurance, you're mentioning like insurance. In Mexico, for example, ML, the one that you mentioned is an insurance, right? I mean, you pay like an annual fee or something like
An
that.
annual fee.
Have like these services. Like,
yes.
the cost. But well, I just wanted to make sure that we had something similar, but as Veronica said, maybe we can go to some pharmacy or somewhere where we can get this. Now, any other person who wants to make a question? Have any question?
How do you, Veronica, you speak about the exercise every day. How many hours do you need every day?
Not hours. It's 150 minutes in the week. So you can break that down into little bite-sized portions, so it's not so much. So it depends on you. If you only want to do it twice a week, that's 75 minutes a day for 2 days out of the week. If you want to do it out of the 7 days, then you break up the 150 into the 7 days. It just depends on you. But at least anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes you can do something.
Okay.
Even if it's just walking. And if you have a desk, a lot of people say, okay, well, I have a job that I'm sitting at a desk all day. Well, what I did with my desk is I stand now. I don't sit anymore at my desk. I haven't sat at my desk for 2 years now. But when I did sit, I had something in the bottoms where I could keep my legs in motion. So my feet were always moving so that the circulation is moving. And then my arms, when I would be on a conference call, I would be moving my arms and doing exercise with my arms so that I could keep that circulation moving.
Okay, very good tip. Very good tip.
Yeah.
Mario, do you have any other question?
Yeah, I have another one question. It's about the app, the app that you said about them. Let me check if the number of the app is
the website.
Stroke Fast. That's what's the name of the app you have suggested for us to use. My question is, how do these apps work? I mean, I download the app on my phone, and then what else?
They're not apps, they're websites. So the first one is mylifecheck.org. So if you go to that one, it's a series of questions that it asks you, and it will give you your prevalence of either having a heart attack or a stroke. Now, what do you need to have? You need to have all your numbers. You need to go to the doctor first and know what your blood pressure is, know what your cholesterol is, know what your glucose is, and then you answer the rest of the questions honestly. Because if you don't answer them honestly, you're not gonna get the true answer that you need. So once you plug in your blood pressure, once you plug in your cholesterol numbers and your glucose numbers, it asks you if you drink and smoke. You say yes or no, and how much you do of either one. It asks you how much exercise you do, and I think it even asks you like what kind of foods you eat or how much salt or sugar you intake. And then it'll give you a number, and it'll give you your prevalence of what is the probability of having, based on the information you just put in, what is your probability of having a stroke or a heart attack?
All right.
So that's the first one. The other one, it says startwalkingnow.org. That's just for people that say, okay, well, I don't like to walk. So this gives you little, like, it's like a walking path. It gives you little things that you can do to help get you, like little milestones that you can do to help get you to walk more. The other one, how to spot a stroke, which is fast. That is just, now that one is an app. And actually I have that one on my phone. Let me pull it up real quick and I'll show it to you. And basically that one, it's just an app that if you think someone is having a stroke, you can go open it up and it'll help you identify whether or not the individual is, let me see, do I still have it? I may not have updated it on my phone. Oh, here it is, my cardiac code. So I don't see, can you guys, I don't know if y'all can see it.
Oh, you know, I'm afraid I can't see it. Fine.
Okay, I'm sorry. But when you go into that one, it gives you the signs and symptoms like we talked about, what does FAST stand for? And it'll help you identify if someone's having a stroke. That's the only thing that one does.
All right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any
All
other
right.
questions?
So, any other question, by the way?
Thank
No?
you.
Okay, well,
It's there, Ponce. Is he still on is he still on?
who?
Is it,
Yeah.
Mr. Ponce? Isaiah Ponce?
Mr. Ponce. Okay, no, he's not on.
Okay.
I think we're disconnected. So
Okay.
right now it's only Mario, Mari Carmen, Sandra, you and me. So we're about to finish. Okay, so thank you so much for answering all of our questions, Veronica. Now, I would like to ask some questions to participants so to verify if they paid attention. So what did Veronica said about diabetes? What do you remember about what she said when she spoke about diabetes, and what is it? Is it increasing or decreasing? What do you remember about it?
She said about people with diabetes, it's more, how can I say, like have more probability to have a stroke, or something like that. Sorry, I heard something like that.
Okay. Anyone else? What do you remember about diabetes? Okay.
Well, I stand for the idea that diabetes is increasing, unfortunately, because as I said before, people defend the right to drink things with sugar. So the main guilty with all this disease is people themselves.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. Now, another question. What is American Heart Association? What is American Heart Association? Or what does it do?
I hope not to blow.
What is the main purpose of them? What do you think? What do you remember?
Well, one of the things that this association does is to train and keep people aware of the serious consequences of these sicknesses. You said diabetes, strokes, heart failure. American Heart Association wants you to be healthy in your heart, period.
No,
Is that true?
completely.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mari.
Well, I tried to say it as easy as I could. Okay.
That's good. That's pretty good. Now, why would insurance be higher? Why would insurance payments would be higher? What is it? She mentioned something about the insurance fees and your health and everything.
So I'm sorry, I missed with that.
Oh, did you hear me? Did you understand my question?
Can you say it again, please?
Of course. Do you remember that she spoke about insurance, right? Mm-hmm. Insurance payments, and that sometimes it goes higher depending on your health status.
Yes, I got it. I got it. And I remember that I that I said, maybe Veronica said the same too, but I said that the more the healthier I am, the less expensive are these insurances.
Is that true, Veronica?
It depends on your employer, but that's the trend that we're seeing, that more employers are making it, they're making it more cost sharing with the employee, in the sense that if you don't take care of your health, it's going to be more expensive. And those that do take care of themselves or trying or making an effort will pay less.
But I think, Vero, I don't know the insurances environment or the markets, but I think that all kind of insurances should be by force, should be expensive. That because the real business, the real profits come from these expensive costs. So healthy or not healthy, a health insurance should be expensive.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, because if you have a condition that's expensive to maintain, then how are you going to be able to afford the care?
Okay, and how many people are willing to maintain these insurances?
Yeah, in my experience, for example, the younger that you are, the less that you pay. For example, for my daughter, she's 3 years old. We paid less. Uh, we paid like, I can't remember, but it for me it was like 3 times for my daughter. It's the healthier than you are, and the younger that you are, it's the less that you pay. Something
Right.
like that. It's like an equation, something like that. Because if you have like 60 years or 50 years, the I don't know how can I say it, but if you are older, I don't know how is the equation, but if you are older,
The older you
yeah,
are, the
yeah,
unhealthy you are, the higher the risk.
yeah,
So the higher the risk, the more expensive.
yeah,
Okay,
something like that.
Sandra. So how many insurances you have to pay? Both for your daughter and for yourself, or do you have something like a familiar insurance, health?
Familiar insurance.
Familiar insurances.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And which kind of insurances should we get suggested for ourselves? A familiar one or an individual one?
Familiar one, but I don't know because I don't know about insurance, but for example, you can have only for surgeries or just for you can use it if you have social security, if you have seguro social.
Mm-hmm.
For a cold, it's better that you go for a cold, maybe with Dr. Simi or Farmacia Guadalajara. And when you have something like maybe
Simple and easy to
yeah,
solve.
yeah,
It's easy to relieve.
something simple, yeah. But when it's expensive, if I have social insurance, I go to the Seguro Social. It's better because it's a lot of money. Yeah. But if you have insurance, you only pay like, I don't know how can I say in English, but it's like the prime. I think it's the prime. You only pay like the prime. And if you have a surgery, for example, I remember when my daughter born, it was like cheaper than, I don't know if I paid as a private service. Yeah, but I don't know. But if you have social insurance, it's better that you use it with expensive disease as heart disease, cancer. It's better because these diseases are very expensive.
All right. Okay. I'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, that's it. Just one more question. What does FAST stand for? Hold on. Do you remember, Mari Carmen and Sandra? FAST. Remember?
Yeah. F for F face.
Yes.
A arm. Something like the arm, it's start like you can use it your hand, and S for the I don't know what's the word, but it's about like speaking like with no sense, and T for try to call 911. Yeah, something like that. I don't know if I'm
You did great.
Thank you.
Very good, guys. Okay, time to finish the meeting. Well, I'm gonna stay on with Mario, Mari Carmen, and Sandra, but we're gonna say goodbye to Veronica for today.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Thank you for all the
Que la
information.
pasan bien.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
También.
And I really hope to speak with you again soon.
Okay, gracias. Bye-bye.
Right.
All right, thank
Bye.
you. I'll stay in contact with you later on. Bye, Vero.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. How was your experience today? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Of course.
I like it.
Of course I
Okay,
enjoy it.
I'm so glad to hear that. And well, it's time for some feedback. Remember that the purpose of this is also to learn and improve our English language. You spoke very, very good today. And anyways, I spotted some grammar mistakes or little things that you can improve, and I wanted to show you, okay? The first of them was this one, and I think that it is very important that you know how to use it, because it was like very mentioned here, so was I don't know if you can watch my board.
Yeah.
Here. Well, the sentence that someone mentioned was like this: the healthier you are, the cheaper the insurance. Okay, we got to understand it, but there is a grammar mistake in it. Can you spot it? Can you find it?
Is maybe the cheaper the insurance is, no?
The healthier. The healthier.
Yes.
Yeah.
The healthier you are. I think that mistake was mine.
No, it was mine.
Sure?
It was
Yeah.
Mark.
Oh.
But Sandra, then you spoke a little bit and you said something similar. So that's why I wanted to mention it, because it is very important that you know how to use this structure. This structure, you must have two sentences, all right? And one of them should be with this comparative, ER, or more. It depends on the adjective, if it is a short one or a long one, you know. So in this case, it was the healthier you are, the cheaper the insurance is. Okay, that's your comparative, all right?
Yeah.
For example, I don't know, try to think about another thing, like the more you study, the higher the chances that you have to pass an exam. Got it?
Yeah.
So you have.
The more I earn, the more I earn.
The more I earn,
Yeah, the more I earn, the less I will become a beggar. Oh, more or less like that.
Okay, very good, very good. You can use more or less, but it has to be comparative all the time. Got it?
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
And Veronica mentioned something like that. She said, like, the healthier you are, I don't remember, but she said something like that, like the higher chances that you have to something. I don't remember right now, but she mentioned something. So one more thing that I would like you to pay attention on is this one. There is a mistake in there. What is it?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes. Agree, it's a verb. It is not an adjective. In Spanish, it is an adjective, but in English, it is a verb. I mean, sometimes we had this, like, estoy de acuerdo, right? So we think that it should be I'm agree, but it's a verb. So I agree. In the past, it should be I agreed. Got it? So keep that in mind. And one more thing, hold on. It should be, all right. So everything you should do is to go somewhere. But it was, in this case, it should be the only thing. Because I think it was like, lo único que tienes que hacer es to do that. I mean, very simple thing. But instead of everything you should do, is like everything, got it? Like all of them. But in this case, it's like the only thing you have to do is that.
Yeah.
So it should be like that. And there's another one. Oh, hold on. Over here. Where is the mistake?
What's the word after go, Tanya?
Here. No, there's no words here. If you. Oh, it's not go. Sorry, it's 60. It was a 6, not a G. Sorry. If you have 60 years.
If you are.
If you are, very good.
Yeah.
Yes. It is very common that we say this, but it is important that we remember that it is like this. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Some of you mentioned familiar insurance. It's called family insurance. That's the term that it is being used here. So it is just like that. And basically that's it. That's what I could spot over here. Well, also in pronunciation, you have this leaf name. What's the pronunciation of it? It should be stevia. Yeah, it should be, in English it's stevia. Stevia.
Stevia.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. So just practice it, practice until you make perfect or almost perfect. It is not necessary that you are perfect every time, but at least that you can communicate. That's the most important thing, okay?
Yeah.
Could you write down any words or expressions that were used today that were new for you? No?
Just stevia.
Okay, okay, got it. Mari Carmen, what about you? Could you identify any word, any new word from the meeting? No?
No.
No? What about you, Sandra? No?
No, I can remember. I can remember one word. No,
All right. Well, it is very important that for next meetings, you take a notebook or something and write down words that can be very useful for you in the future. For example, one that I took note from, it was pull it up. Okay, when she said, let me pull up, I'm gonna show you the app. Let me pull it up for you.
Okay, pull up means show.
Pull it up is like taking up, like showing from the phone. I mean, it's not like a literal meaning. Got it? You cannot pull up the application from the phone. Got it? But it's like whenever you want to say that, oh, let me pull up the application from the phone, or let me pull up the document from the computer. Got it?
Yeah.
So it is very important that whenever we have these meetings, you write down expressions or vocabulary words so you can improve your own. Got it?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you later on. I'm gonna have another meeting online, and it's gonna be next Saturday.
Yeah.
10. Yeah, you can see it on our app, okay, or you can see it in our webpage. Let me see if I can show it to you. Hold on. hold on. Just let me show you. I'm gonna show you my screen. Just give me one more minute. Got it. And then this is our web page. You can go to club section. Then you scroll down. You keep scrolling down until you see the calendar. And we have new meetings online. These are the ones that I'm gonna be delivering this month at least. And we have next Saturday at 10 a.m. We're gonna talk about generations, like the baby boomers and the millennials, and you know, stuff. So if you're interested, please join me on Saturday. All right?
At 10 a.m. Mexico time or East time.
Yes, it's Mexico, and right now here in Texas is the same thing. I mean, and this is based on Mexico's time, so don't worry. I mean, if it's here, it's Mexico's time. Well, Sandra is in Canada, so just
2 hours. I'm 2 hours after.
All right.
Forward.
Okay.
All right. And one last thing, Tanya, how can we get the Vero's presentation?
Vero's presentation. Let me see what I can do. Got it?
All right. All right. Take your time.
Yes. Let me see what I can do for you. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the following meetings. And well, I feel so happy to see you today.
Yeah, I'm happy too.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
very
good night.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
See you.
Take care. Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
Bye. Bye. Bye.